Hello lovelies! It's been 3 years. Oh gosh. So I guess I'm trying to be back, and yeah, it's December 2025 and I haven't posted since August 2022. And I started this YouTube channel in the end of 2020 because I was transitioning from a few different notebooks that I'd been playing around with in 2020 back into a Filofax. So I've used a Filofaxes since I was in school, so a good 20 years, and I've had a few different ones, and then in 2020 I decided to just try something else. I tried like one of those like ring bound day per page planners, and I documented at the beginning of my channel why that didn't work, and I wanted to kind of show my transition back into a Filofax. This was my personal size Filofax, which I've had for I think about 15 years now. I've had it for a very long time, and I used this all the way up until 2020, and then around 2020 it felt there just wasn't really enough room for me in this planner anymore, which is why in 2020 I switched to like a day per page like diary thing, and especially because at the time I was trying to play around with mixing work and personal life planning things. The mixing both was fine, but the planner itself didn't work for me. Like the day per page was just too much room, and figuring out how to split the days up was I just didn't really enjoy it. So anyway, at the end of that year for 2021, which is when I started my channel, I moved into an A5 Filofax. I was very lucky with this. I found this on eBay for a very good price at the time. I can't remember, but it was a good price, and it was basically new. And so I used this for a couple of years up to 2022 when I last posted. And just having a look at my stats, I think I last posted in like August 2022. So for a couple of years I gave the A5 a go, and I really love this planner. Like, it's so floppy and soft and comfortable to use, and there's so much room in it, and you know, there's so much things that you can do. And this is why I think Filofaxes stand the test of time, because you can move everything around and make them suit, like, as your life changes, you can move it around so that it suits what you need at any given time of your life. But for some reason, at the end of 22, I just completely fell out of love with it. And it was because, and I'm sure other people in the planning community will also understand this, because it seems silly to say to just anyone, but because planning and having a Filofax was such a part of like my personality and how I organised my whole life, falling out of love with it was quite difficult actually, because I still wanted to use it, but I think just at the time it was just not what I needed actually. And over the next couple years, so between 2023 and 2024, I basically moved everything to digital. I moved my calendar to digital, my daily organisation, my planning, my to-do lists, my trackers, everything moved online. And for about a year and a half, for most of those 2 years, I'd say it did work really well, because at the time I was having my smartphone with me all the time, and it was you know, you have everything there on your phone whilst you're out and about as well. But I found over those couple of years that I was actually trying to spend less time on my smartphone and just being online in general. And I think what became evident to me as being a problem was sitting down with a Filofax or just any sort of paper-based planner is very much, it's not just about planning, it's about spending that time with ourselves and our thoughts and being mindful and thinking and letting our brains kind of process, or at least that's what I found with me. And I found that over those couple of years where I went completely digital, I completely lost that, and I really started to struggle with my attention span and being able to focus for long periods. And I'm a big reader as well, and I found that even because I was spending more time on my phone than ever, because that's where I did not just, you know, doom scrolling or being on social media, it had then become part of almost every minute of every day, because that's where I did all my planning and my organisation things. I was just then really struggling with reading and just basically being able to spend quiet time by myself. And so over the last year, so over 2025, I've kind of thought a lot about trying to move away from this reliance on my smartphone as a catch-all for everything. And it so happened that at the beginning of this year, I was in Card Factory, which in the UK, it's just, as it sounds, it's just a place where you can get like all sorts of birthday and greetings cards. But they sell lots of bits, like little bits and pieces, including stationery. And I just, on a whim, when I was getting some cards one day in January last year, or earlier in this year, I saw this on the counter, and it was like £2.50. And it's just a week per 2 pages spread, like very cheap little planner, one of these standard ones. And these are the planners that I started to use when I left school. So in school, every year we were given something similar to a Filofax, actually, not obviously as beautiful, but basically just like a week per page spread where we could log our homework and our plans and all that kind of stuff. So that's where really the whole planning thing got ingrained into my daily life. And then when I left school, I played around with these style ones for about 4 or 5 years. So I used these from 2006 to whenever I got my first Filofax, which I'll have to dig out because I would like to also kind of show the timeline of like all the different planners and things that I've used over the years. And I randomly just picked this up because one thing I also missed about kind of this in paper planning is the memory keeping of it, and it doesn't feel the same when it's digital, because at the end of the year I like being able to put something physical into my memory box, and you don't get that with digital. So for 2 years, 2023, 2024, I didn't have that, and I thought this year I'll just use this. It's kind of an in-between. I can memory keep with this. So on this I barely note anything. It's mostly just like what I mainly did in a day, like if I did some exercise or I went to the shops or I have a day out or I see friends. This isn't so much about planning in advance, it's more about memory keeping for the end of the year. But after a couple of months, I found that I was actually really enjoying it again, and I was adding more and more, and it became something that I then just had open on my desk all year. And it's funny because the spread is exactly the kind of spread that I have in my Filofax. So I love a week on 2 pages. It's just a little bit smaller than like the personal size. And we've come full circle again, because now at the end of this year, I've decided that I've enjoyed this so much and I've really missed that process that I'm going to go back to my Filofax. So this has been great, and it's funny because it's like the cheapest planner I think I've ever bought. And it's been a great little friend on my desk all year. So this end of this year, I have decided I'm going to go back to my personal Filofax because the A5 was just too big for me, and I think some things that I've learned over the last few years are how I use it is going to change. So this is the personal size. I've had this since Like I said before, I don't know, about 15 years this one is still so gorgeous. It's like my favourite colour ever, and this is when I got one of my first corporate jobs in London, and this was a present to myself. And there was this little stationery shop near St Paul's Cathedral, which is where I used to work near. And I saw this through the window for months, this specific one, because purple is my favourite colour and I love the size, and it's leather, so it's good quality. It was, at the time, I mean, I think Filofax obviously have gone up in price over the years for inflation, but even at the time it was still a big expense for me. So I put it off for a long time. But then one day I walked past the shop and it was in a sale, and I can't even remember what I paid for it, but it's definitely paid for itself, because 15 years later it's still here. I will, even if I ever permanently stop using Filofaxes, which I can't imagine I will, I think it will always be a part of my life in some capacity. Like, it still looks so amazing. I do have beeswax, which I use for all my leather, like bags and planners and things. So I do make sure to condition it every few months or so, just to make sure that it doesn't dry out, and it brings up scuffs really nicely as well. So it's in pretty good condition. There's a few scuffs because I've had it for so long and it used to kind of bash around my bag a lot, but yeah, I'm going to go back to it. So I have already, I've bought the inserts for next year. I've got them from Filofax. I've just got like the standard, the week on 2 pages, because that's the one that I've always used and I really like it, and I've played around with a few other spreads and they just haven't really worked for me. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm basically going back to where I started all those years ago. Sometimes you just, the phrase, if it's not broke, don't fix it, really does apply to things, and it certainly applies to this in my life anyway. So that's in there. But before, and what I did a lot of my videos on before, was kind of showing each month, like just my weekly spreads, and also how I was using the dividers. So I've got 6 in here at the moment just because that's what I've always had, but I'm going to change this over the Christmas break. I'm not going to use this to plan everything. So over the course of the last couple years, I've kind of split out what I did use my Filofax for originally into different notebooks, which has actually been quite helpful, because I think although the A5 is too big for kind of like that memory keeping week by week, I found it a bit fractured in my mind doing everything in the inserts. So I'm going to take all the inserts out, and basically this is just going to hold, yeah, just the weekly spread, and this will be a way for me to just, at the end of the day, I like to sit at my desk and jot down what I've done in a day, and that suits me fine. And for most of this year I have been still using a digital calendar, and I've been using Google Calendar for the last maybe 4 years or so. So the calendar for me is my planning for what's coming up, and the Filofax or the planner has been something that I actually use to document what I have done. And that's kind of important for me, because I do get quite busy and my plans change a lot, because I have to manage my energy quite carefully. And although crossing things out and making things messy is just part of life, it does drive me nuts in a planner. Because obviously on a week on 2 page for the personal size, there's not enormous amounts of room. So if like my plans are constantly changing and I'm constantly scribbling things out, firstly, I don't like the way it looks, because this is more of a memory thing for me. And secondly, it just reduces the amount of space that you have. So I do like to have something else for that planning in advance part. So I probably shouldn't really call this planner, because I don't use it to plan, but what I'm going to use it for, like I say, is to do that daily sort of memory keeping, which I have been using this for. So I will be returning in 2026 with my personal Filofax, and my intention is to relaunch this channel and document that process. But I think how I'm going to do it moving forwards is, it won't just be focusing completely on the planner, because I want to kind of share other parts of my life as well. So I do lots of like journaling and scrapbooking and things, and I thought I don't want to just focus solely on the Filofax here. I want to share just other parts of my life as well. and like I read lots of books and I do lots of hobbies, and I just thought that would be a fun thing to add. So that's the planning part of it. So previously in my Filofax planners, I would have in the dividers I'd use them for different things. So for like tracking hobbies or health things, or for goal tracking and making. But over the last couple of years I've kind of played around with different things. So because also I want to get away from the whole digital, everything on digital basically. I'm coming off of all digital platforms. And I have slowly been doing that over 2025, going back to paper-based things. So my first one is, this is a notebook. It's just a plain, undated notebook. Cheap as chips, loads of pages in it. And this has basically been my catch-all messy notebook, and is a hybrid to what I was using this for. This is, I plan my weeks on in terms of like to-do lists. So I try to not write like a massive to-do list anymore every day. I'll try to use just like one page a week, and I'll just note down like 2 or 3 key things that I do a day. And that will be my to-do list for the week. And then I also use it for my food planning. I use it for like personal development journaling. And if I'm working through a problem, or I'm trying to create a presentation, but basically just anything, I use this notebook as like a big catch-all. It was a super cheap, ugly one, as you can see, but it's actually been amazing this year because, you know, it's not a special, precious notebook that I spent loads of money on. I've just been able to like really figure out how I want to use it, and it's like become very special to me. And I'm about 5 pages away from finishing the whole thing. So I've made such good use of this, and yeah, this is something that I'm definitely going to keep into next year. I already bought my one for next year, so I'm going to actually use one of these, which is kind of similar to this. It's just like an A5 lined notebook, and it's got a couple of these taggy things on it. So for a very long time I've always used these ring bound notebooks, because what I like about them is you can fold them flat when you're writing on them. And I also love how you can like tear the pages out. But because this has been such a part of my day-to-day life this year, there's been many pages that I'll refer to quite often now. And the one problem with these notebooks is if you're constantly referring to one page, it weakens the little bindings, and they end up sort of falling out, which obviously isn't useful. So next year, my replacement for this, now that I've finished it, will be a bound notebook instead. I'm going to give these a go, and I bought this one in particular because it's firstly got lovely thick paper, so I can use my fountain pens on it, and it does lie pretty flat. So I'll give this a go into next year and see how that goes. But this is kind of my catch-all. So this will be, like I say, this will be where I note down like what I'm eating in a week, any weekly to-do lists, and if I'm working through something or trying to process something or making notes on like personal development journaling sessions, this is what I use that for. So that's that one. Now, another big part of, well, what used to be a big part of my Filofax planner was tracking. So I used to track books, TV shows, movies, food, hobbies. I don't do that anymore. It all just became a bit too, everything felt a bit getting the data for the sake of it, you know, and it became too numbers focused. So I stopped tracking pretty much everything apart from what I was reading, because reading is a huge part of my life also, and I do want to obviously remember over the years what I've read and who wrote it. So I'm not focused on how many books that I read a year. I just read however many I read. That doesn't really bother me, but I do want to remember what I read and when I read it. So for the last few years I've been using different apps. I used Goodreads for a very long time. I came off that a couple of years ago. I closed my account for various reasons. I have been using Storygraph. instead for the last few years, which is a really great app. They put a lot of time and care and energy into it, and I love how when they're developing a new part of the app, they actually ask the users what they think and what they prefer. So I will actually continue using this probably next year, but what I do want to do is, this is one thing I do want to kind of track, and I'm wobbling this around because I'm going to try and use this very tiny notebook to kind of do each, like a page for each book that I read. So the last year I've been trying to, each time I finish reading a book, I try and actually sit down and kind of process what I've read and just think about what I've learned and kind of commit the story and the characters to memory. I think for a few years it got very easy when I was reading to just be like, tick that one off onto the next one and get through more books. I found that I was very quickly forgetting like the storylines and the characters and the plot and things of the books I'd read. So I want to kind of make that post-reading phase after a book a bit of a more mindful process, and I thought, and it doesn't have to be journaling for hours after each book, but I just kind of want to move to a tiny little notebook and just do a little page that I've read each book of just like my thoughts, what happened, my favourite characters and things like that. So I bought one of these. It's just like a, I don't know what size this is. Is it A6? Just a cute little notebook. I got these in like a pack of 3 in Waterstones, I think, which is a bookstore in the UK. So that's the plan, and I've counted out all the pages. So I read on average a year anything between kind of 30 to 50 books. It ranges or varies wildly depending on like the size of the books I'm reading and if I'm going through a reading slump, but this will take up to 50 if I do one little monthly page and then a page for each book. So that's my plan. But that's the only thing that I really track anymore. Everything else, it just, I don't know. I guess I just sort of grew out the habit of it, and it's not that important to me to track everything that I watch and do and stuff throughout the year. So they're the main things, and then the other thing is obviously, so I have, for the Filofax, I have like that memory keeping aspect, and my digital calendar I have slowly been using less and less, and I'm trying to rely on it less. The one thing about digital calendars is, of course, it is so easy when you need to move things around. Like, there's no crossing stuff off. It's literally, you just move the day's plan whenever you want it. But I'm basically trying to just like not use digital things anymore, because it doesn't help with my focus and my attention span, and I'm going back to paper-based. So my replacement for the calendar that I use online for the planning aspects of life will just be an actual good old-fashioned calendar. I've got this pretty garden birds calendar, this really cute little size, really like the really large ones. But yes, and I will just be kind of using this because I'm not going to be precious about it, and I can very easily, I don't mind if I'm like scratching things out and moving things around on this, because this won't be something that I keep at the end of the year. My Filofax inserts will be, because at the end of every year I'll move them out into my memory boxes that I have. And so that, yeah, this will replace that digital calendar aspect. So this is where I will kind of plan ahead and note down appointments and plans and things. And then when I've kind of done them, that's where at the end of the day I sit down with my Filofax inserts, and that's the memory keeping. So, update and overview on where I've been for the last few years now, and kind of where I'm at now and where I plan to go. And I'm really excited because as I've been slowly letting go of the digital aspects of all this, I'm definitely finding that it's helping with my process, because I really like just sitting down at a cozy desk with like a candle and a cup of tea or something at the end of the day and flipping through all my notebooks and my planners. It's just really cozy and it's really mindful, and it's definitely helping me to just enjoy that process and to kind of think about the passage of time, rather than, I feel like when I was doing everything digitally, it just felt another data set to tick off the day. I don't know if that makes sense. So for 2026, I hope to be back, and each month or week, I'm not quite sure yet, show how my Filofax is looking, what I'm kind of logging, what I'm journaling about, what I'm reading, and I'd also kind of like to incorporate just like some cozy daily vlogs, because I mostly work from home and it would just be, I guess, just nice to just share what I'm up to really. I don't do anything particularly exciting, it's just my day-to-day life. But I thought I'd kind of incorporate that so that it's a bit more interesting. I guess for the beginning of the year, obviously I don't want to commit to a really busy schedule because it will be something new that I'm getting used to. So I want to say maybe for the first few months it will just be a video maybe once or twice a month, and then as I kind of get used to it, I really hope to post a bit more often. But that is my intention. I don't want to say resolution because I don't like the word resolution, but my intention for next year, yeah, just get used to getting back into this fully paper-based planning ecosystem thing and document how it goes and the journey that I'm going back to. And I'm really excited, and anyone who's still kind of here around watching this, then firstly, obviously a big sorry because I haven't been around for a very long time, and completely understand if it's not a channel you want to follow anymore. If you're still going to be around, then thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I really hope to make a good go of this and see where we go. So yes, and I hope everyone's been well. It's been a few years since obviously I've checked in, and life has changed so much. Very much when I started this video, well it was 2020, it was like still the COVID years, and yeah, life has moved on. Some things have changed, some things haven't. I still mainly work from home. I go into the office a couple times a week. But yes, I hope everyone's well, and hopefully I'll see you soon, and thank you very much for stopping by. I look forward to seeing you in the new year, and however you celebrate the end of December, I hope you have a good, restful, cozy break, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye!